So do you believe that God belongs to all of us? Do you believe that you're the chosen one? There were two little kids on a program, I like sharing this, where someone asked the children about how they did at some game, and they said, well, which one's the best? And if you know anything about children, that's not the smartest thing to ask when you've got two children that are playing a game or doing something. And one child, the first one, said, I'm the best. And the other one said, I'm the best too. Isn't that true? So if there is one chosen one and that chosen one is you, isn't that chosen one also the person next to you? And isn't this Christ principle demonstrated in the way shower, the principle that is available and accessible to all of us? Isn't there no real contradiction in that concept that there is one Son of the Father, one child of the source, one emanation and expression of the great God, the great good, and it is you, and it is you too, and it is one, and there is only one, and it is us. Because there is no separation in us, amen? There's a quote I like that said, God is at home, it is we who have gone out for a walk. It's by Meister Eckhart. God is home, it is we who have gone out for a walk. And do we not go out on walks quite often in our human journey, in the journey of evolving as a human being into our full spiritual consciousness, into longer and deeper moments of awakening, into the oscillation between the field of the absolute and the field of the relative? There was a spider recently in my kitchen, and I was, just walking in the kitchen to the refrigerator, and I just walked up, and as I'm about to go into the refrigerator, there's a spider right there in midair, just hanging. Now, I know I've done some funny things with animals and not recognized them, but I am smart enough to know that spiders don't have wings. So here is this spider right in the middle of the kitchen. And I can see nowhere this spider is going to and coming from. I can see no connections, no attachment. But obviously, intelligence tells me it's got to be connected somewhere. So if I want to remove this spider, I don't have to touch the spider. I can just keep looking around the edges and see that even though it's invisible, even though so much metaphysically of our reality, right, is invisible, it's actually coming from somewhere. Every expression is coming from somewhere, and everything is going to somewhere. So I looked around, I like that. And then finally, just blindly going in the air, I caught the web. And you know how strong webs are, right? So strong, that invisible field. But I picked it up and I just walked it dangling outside and threw it out there. Yeah, yay for the spider. But we can't always see how things are connected. We can't always see the path. We can't always see where we came from and how it influences where we are. And we can't always see where we're going. We don't even always have pictures and ideas of the dreams that we have. T. Lawrence said, dream your dreams with open eyes and make them come true. Here's a question for today. Can you make them come true without being able to see them? If you can't see them, there's a lot of us that can see all of our dreams and our hopes, right? We have the pictures, we have our affirmations, we know exactly what they are. But can they come true? Can our dreams express when we can't even see them? When they are like the spider web? I believe that with a spiritual practice they can, yeah? That in fact, I was even spraying one day, and it was kind of mean, but I was spraying the plants, and there was a massive spider web, and I thought, well, that'll be a good way to get it down. So I just sprayed it, even though the day before I had meditatively watched this beautiful spider create this entire web in awe. But I was trying to get it down because it got very big. And I sprayed and I sprayed and I sprayed. Did it come down? No, not at all. Try it. Grab a hose and spray a spider web. It doesn't come down. It is so strong. It is nearly invisible, but it is so strong. And so is our lives. I do believe that we can, without knowing the details of our dreams, without even knowing the options available to us in relationship, in health and wellness, in career and job, mission and work, I believe that even without having the rest of our lives as an idea that's defined in our mind, that we can uncover and live our dreams. It just takes a few spiritual principles, the application of them, and stepping forward. I haven't really shared a lot of my story since being here, but I grew up Catholic. I've shared that part. I grew up Catholic, and there was a Sunday when I was little that I went down to the little kids' Sunday school, and the priest did a special lesson just for the kids. And after that Sunday, I came up, or my mom picked me up, and I was so excited because I felt very spiritually nurtured for the first time. When I was little and when I was in church, like if it was this church, I would be able to tell you how many beams there were in each of these sides, and probably count up these and count those. Because that's what my child mind did when the message was not relevant to my mind, and I would sit there and count. But I came up from this particular Sunday, and I said, I know what I want to be now, Mom. A priest. I want to be a priest. I get it. I get why we're here. And she looked at me, and this little me, and she just said, I'm sure, Erin, that you will find a way to do that. But that idea didn't come up again for a very long time. My childhood thought was I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I didn't have that thought return for a very long time. But that inspiration, that pull was there. Even at the end of high school, I did one of those books. Have you heard of those books, What Color's Your Parachute? To try to figure out what you should do with your life. And I was like painfully seeking, painful. Has anyone had that painful seeking? Either painful seeking, like what is my purpose? What am I here to be doing? What should my job be? Or where is my soulmate? Is there one? Does it exist for me? Right? One of those painful longings, those gut-wrenching, awful, painful longings. So I had that of going, I can't think of any of these things that I would want to do with my life. And this is my life, and I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that. So I had the support of family, school, friends, and I took all of those tests, which said that I should be a dental assistant. I think because my attention to detail, and it told my sister she should be a truck driver, and she loved the Grateful Dead at the time, and she was like, that's cool, I could listen to the tapes. She ended up being a lawyer. But there was something embedded in those questions, right, that was trying to find out what is in our nature and how can what is in our nature come alive outside. And I would pain myself about it. I'd be in pain. And I'd say to my mom, I'd say to other people in my interactions, like, it's like there's something wrong. There's something wrong. I need to be doing something. I'm here. There's something I'm here for. I can feel it, but I can't see it. I have no idea what it is. I don't know how to find it. I don't know how to identify it. Now, if you think about that book, What Color is Your Parachute, would it ever have turned up as minister for someone like me? Would that book's definition of pastor or minister, be something that when I answered my questions would be a match? No. Growing up Catholic and having all priests be male and not wanting to be a nun, not feeling that calling, is the possibility of being a priest a possible thing? No. Again, no. I come from a family of educators where everyone has, masters and PhDs, and where if you're a teacher, a principal, a professor, that is very much the norm. So I knew for myself that I could do that. And it wasn't until later that I realized in talking to other people that whatever your parents do, or for a lot of people, this isn't always the experience, but whatever your parents do or did, you kind of know or think, I could do that. Right? That's possible because you've seen it demonstrated, you've seen it done. If your parent is a restaurant owner, you think, I could always go into that business. If your parent is a teacher, I could become a teacher. If your parent is an artist, I could become an artist. But if they're not, and if the people around you, if the village that raises you doesn't have an example of what your calling is, then it can be much more difficult to identify it and believe that it's possible, no? Like, think about telling someone that has no artists in the family, you could be an artist. You could be a musician. What are the first things that are going to come to mind? That would never happen for someone like me. How could I ever get there? Think about someone that comes from a family that no one is in the field of education. Maybe the first person to ever graduate in their community, in their family, right? Are they going to think, well, if I wanted to, I could keep going to school and be a professor. I could teach at a university. No. It's out of the realm of proximal development of the mind. It's out of the realm of what I can ideate for myself. But many of us on the spiritual path are living a life beyond what we can ideate for ourselves. And we're living it through inspiration. We're living it through eavesdropping on the mind of God and listening to God consciousness and allowing that to fill us and allowing that to direct us. But it is sometimes a blind walk, is it not? So what can we listen to? I had a 10-year boyfriend when I was growing up, from junior high through college. And I remember one of my times of painstaking, gut-wrenching, and it was drama. It was fully me. It wasn't like drama and then this is me. It was like I was the drama. I was the suffering. And I remember just being in pain about, what am I going to do with my life? And I just don't see anything out there that's interesting or that I'd want to do. And I remember driving, and we were at a stoplight, and the car came to a halt. And he looked at me, and he said, well, Erin, I think that everyone always has something in their life, probably, that hasn't been solved yet, that they haven't figured out what it is. And he said, look at us, think about us. We already know who we're going to be with for the rest of our lives. We have that one solved. Imagine if it was, we didn't have that one solved, but you knew what you wanted to do for your career. And I can remember clearly saying, oh my gosh, yeah, that's true. I would much rather have this one settled and solved and be exploring that one. The irony, obviously, is that I did not marry that person. So then I was faced with one point with two of those balls in the air, right? But that is part of the human condition, to look at our lives and to look at the places where we feel like they're not solved, where we feel like there's a longing or an issue or a problem, and call it a problem, but it is just an unfulfilled area of our lives. So what do we do with that, and how do we stay present to life in the moment? Has anyone ever found themselves in an area, take any field of life, where you stopped living it because it wasn't done yet? Because you hadn't figured it out. You didn't have the soulmate, you didn't have the job, you didn't have the finances, you didn't have the health, fill in the blank. You didn't have whatever it was, and it's a problem. It's a problem. And so it becomes the topic of our conversation. It becomes the topic of our minds. It becomes a constant experience, and we begin to become identified with that vibrational field of lack or problem. Well, here is the irony, friends. The irony is that this problem is part of the creative process. This pull and this discomfort, this feeling like there's something missing, or there's something that should be here. There's a person out on this planet, but and all these people, I can't find them. There's a mission or a purpose for my life, but I can't feel it. There's an idea of better health, but I can't reach it. This concept of calling that process a problem actually activates it as a problem and leads us to identify with the vibrational field of lack. And that lack, through that lack consciousness, never will come the solution, never will come the healing, never will come the demonstration or the result that we're craving and striving for. But we in the human condition tend to continue to call these feelings problems. Sometimes we even have a tendency to push away these things. We say, oh, well, there isn't any job that I think I want out there, so I guess I'm not into getting a job. I just won't do any of them. Oh, I haven't seen a marriage that I like. I haven't seen a relationship that I like. I am not interested in a relationship. Are you open to a relationship? Oh, no, I'm not interested. I've done that. What have we done? What we've done is done relationships that we don't admire, that we don't like, that we don't want, we don't love. But when we tell the universe, when we tell the field, when we tell God consciousness, when we tell ourselves, I don't want that, I'm not looking for that, really, isn't that a trick on ourselves? Because what we're really saying is, I don't want what I've seen, I want what I feel. And maybe I haven't seen a demonstration or an example of that yet, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That darn spider is hanging in the middle of the room. It's coming from somewhere and it's going to somewhere. There's a Unity book that says, when you are truly thinking God, you cannot struggle to do anything. It is when you are thinking of self, little self, not high self, that you struggle and see nothing but darkness, grief, and failure. In Steps for Higher Knowledge, it says, be free, follow only yourself. You are the servant of all, yet you have but one master. You are the student of all, yet you have but one teacher. Can we presence the contradictions in life? Can we presence the emotions and the feelings that we have as human beings on this spiritual exploration and not call them wrong, but call them creative? Not call them problems, but call them unfoldings? Can we honor the feelings that we have and stop arguing with them and instead find them interesting? Dive into them, discover them, ask questions about them. What is this feeling? What is this longing? And then honor its source. And if you find that its source is an error thought, then send it back to the nothingness from which it came. A sign of spiritual maturity is to be able to be the space in your mind, to presence the space in our beings for seeming paradox or seeming contradiction. There can be an aspects of ourselves that thinks, I need to solve or fix this. That there's something wrong, there's something missing. There's something missing in me, there's something missing in everyone else. There's something not there. Fill in the blank. But the presencing comes in when we can allow the human mind and the emotional experience to go there and also stay centered in the vibrational field of peace and contentment, of love and centering at the core of our beings. So can we be in a place where we call something a problem on one hand and we say it's absolutely perfect and there's nothing wrong on the other hand? Is that a contradiction that can be held by the expansiveness of our minds? And what happens when we hold it? I believe that our spiritual progress, when it comes to uncovering the invisible, when it comes to following our dreams, when it comes to these longings that we sometimes have them as aversions, the craving and aversion, we get attached. I believe that that is the creative process, and that we're called to hold both contentment and seeking in the same moment. To hold contentment and seeking in the same moment. The common misunderstanding of peace is that peace is the absence of conflict, the absence of chaos, the absence of conflict. That peace is something that arrives, that someone or something gives to us, but peace is not. Peace is the avenue through which we presence our world, through which we show up. It is the vehicle that is birthed from within. It's not something that can be given. It's something we come from, we live from. So are we willing in any moments of seeming contradiction to step into peace and to make a practice of being the space for contradictory feelings, so that we don't put all of our energy, we don't put all of our thought and all of our mind into, well, my experience is this feels like a problem, this longing, this craving feels like a problem, or I don't know what I'm to do, I can't see, the visible is invisible to me right now, I have no idea, I don't know what to be, I haven't seen the example. To be in that space if we also validate that with our spiritual practice, what do we get more of? If we validate with our spiritual practice, then we create the vibrational field of that being a problem, and we keep getting examples that show us how right we are, because the universal God speaks in the language of yes, love. Is there nothing for me? Yes, love. Is there something for me? Yes, love. We co-create. And it is ours to step into our good. It is ours to be conscious about the thoughts and the emotions and the vibrational field. And to do that, we have to do the second step. The first step is making the space for conflicting emotions. The first step was. The second step is going beyond our current understanding. Going beyond our current understanding. Do we have the courage to go beyond what we see? And to explore, to get out of our comfort zone. For some of you this morning, even the song that Carl shared with us, where we're looking at each other and I love you, and that might have been beyond your comfort zone, right? But when we break through our comfort zone, we find things we've never experienced before. When I got to college, I finally got to a Unity church for the first time. A Unity Center in Boulder, and I walked in the door and I heard the sermon, and all of a sudden I could see it flash before my face, and I went, that's it. But it wasn't like a, wahoo, I found it, that's it. It was like, oh gosh, I'm 19 years old, I'm in college, are you kidding me? Is that it? I don't know. I've never seen any, I don't know, what is that? Me? It was more of like a horror story at that time. I thought, now I'm never going to get married. There is a film that I just saw, which is an amazing film. It is not for the lighthearted. It is not for someone that doesn't have a lot of serotonin and spiritual endurance, but it is a film called A Normal Heart. And it is about the struggle of a community of beloveds during the AIDS crisis, and the experience and the feeling of totally being alone. But in this film, which is, again, very powerful, in this film, there was a beautiful part where it kind of showed this man's unfoldment and development of his nature. He knew his nature, and he challenged his brother. He was gay, and he challenged his brother to acknowledge him as being the same. His brother, who showed love very much, always showed him he loved him, but at the core, they got to this confrontation in this part where he said, say that we're the same. Say that we're the same. Like, say our core is the same, that you are love, I am love. This isn't what he said in the film, but you know. Can you say it? Can you say that it's not, I'm a problem that's being fixed, right? But you love me anyway. It's clear that you love me anyway. And it was this intense interaction. And in that interaction, in that question, he expressed part of his spiritual journey, and I was so moved by this part where he was saying, you know, that he was going from therapist to therapist, you know, trying to get help, figuring out what was wrong. And, you know, that spectrum of possibility wasn't really shown to him because it wasn't the norm in his family. So he had to discover from his own core what love looked like to him, what partnership looked like to him, what soulmate looked like to him. Because he didn't fit into the confines or the model of what he was given and what he grew up with and what was in his family and what was passed down to him. It takes courage, doesn't it? It takes courage to follow the birthing of your heart when you can't see the web outside of you. But to go beyond our current understanding, we must have courage. The last tool after space for conflicting emotions and going beyond our understanding is to recognize that when each of us is born, we get a lottery ticket. And the universe does not give out lottery tickets that don't win. The universe doesn't do what I do, which is buy the lottery ticket and never check it. The universe is always delivering. It's always revealing the numbers. But in the human condition, we go through a few patterns. We all have the ticket. We all have the gifts. We all have the perfect pattern for right relationships in our lives, right family systems, right everything, right employment, right health, right abundance and prosperity. But sometimes with the lotto tickets, what happens? Some of you don't check, me too, the lotto tickets. Some, which I just had an experience with this when I was giving a talk the other week. I gave out lottery tickets to everyone, and I watched the metaphysics after of everything that happened. I watched myself, actually. I wouldn't say that I lost the extra tickets that I had after giving the rest of them out, the ones that I brought home. I wouldn't say that I had lost them, but I'd say that I'm not sure right now where they are, so I haven't checked the 20 or 30 that were left. But think about that, right? Metaphysically, in my life, that is something about my gifts. I have a lot that I'm sitting on that I don't make the time for. Right? So all of these metaphysical lessons, we can look at ourselves, look into ourselves. Some don't navigate the unfamiliar. I had a beautiful couple come up to me after, and they said, we've never bought a lottery ticket before. How do we check this? What do we do? Because I made everyone promise to check it. But what happens in life when we're not familiar with something, sometimes we sit on our gifts. We sit on the field, and we don't investigate. We just go, well, no one in my family ever did that, so I don't know. I don't even know where to go to do this or to check it or how to do that, right? And we go through life without checking that winning lottery ticket. Some, like Reverend Brenda, who was here the other week, leave it to someone else. She handed me the ticket and she said, check this for me. If I win, just split it in half, take out the taxes, and send me my half. How many of us leave it to some other outside sources and forces? How many of us say, I'm going to just sing in my closet and in my shower for the rest of my life and hope that Aerosmith and all of their band discovers me? Right? If anyone could just see how gifted I am as a poet when I don't read my poetry to anyone, they, would want me on television all the time. I am Oprah, just no one knows it. Some leave it to someone else. Some don't make the time. Some don't even buy it. Some don't buy the ticket. They don't know they can. They don't know it exists. Don't know where to go to get it. The good news, friends, is that that's not a problem. That's not a problem. Martha Smock in the book Halfway Up the Mountain said, the point where human efforts leave off and the God self takes over is the turning point. It is the difference between mediocrity and genius, between bare accomplishment and outstanding achievement. One of my favorite quotes by Howard Thurman is, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go and do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Would you end with a couple of affirmations with me? I am whole. Together, I am whole. I lack nothing. And then here's a paradox, here's a contradiction. I am complete and evolving. Together, I am complete and evolving. I am content and transforming. Together, I am content and transforming. And so it is. Namaste.